the entire 3 hours that he was talking to Kanye, he was shook. He was shook to death. He's like, oh, no, don't say that. We love the Jewish people. He said this multiple times in the interview. Ye has been in the news for, and if you don't know, I'm talking about Kanye West. His official name is Ye. He changed his name to Ye. And in fact, he went off on Chris Cuomo. He went off on Chris Cuomo about, hey, I want the Chiron changed to reflect my actual name. Ye's been in the news. There's so much talk about Ye, and there's focus on certain things about Ye that I don't like. And because I'm seeing the media doing a couple of things that I don't like, and I'm like, okay, they're playing games. Which is why I said, you know what, it's time for us to chime in so that we can focus on what actually needs to be focused on. Ye and Candace Owens are at an event in Paris, and they're both wearing White Lives Matter shirts. Next day, that already starts an outrage because Candace posts those pictures. Next day, he's like, hey, BLM is a scam. Thank you. You're welcome. You know, a lot of people got upset about that and like, oh, what's this about? White Lives Matter. You know that like White Lives Matter, that's just said to diminish the significance of Black Lives Matter. We can't let people push us off our square and our focus so easily. And I know it's easier said than done, especially when we're dealing with things of racial issues. But that's the point. We know these are significant issues. We know how emotionally significant these are. And we know that people will use that and exploit those issues to get a rise of us and to get us off our square. We got to stop falling for it. Because there was a purpose behind that. And I had done my video. I talked about how, hey, White Lives Matter would actually make sense if you're talking about all the white people killed by police. We could have talked about that. And in fact, we could have used that moment to flip it on the agenda because there was an agenda there. We could have used that moment to flip that to say, hey, but look at it from this perspective. Hey, why aren't, if you actually believe White Lives Matter, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about your Tony Tempers? Why aren't you talking about that cat that we watched the video of him crawling and being murdered by a cop with the words, "You're fucked," on his AR-15. You have this police officer that thinks he's a character from a Bruce Willis movie and he murders this dude. Like, that's one of the ways it could have been flipped to completely nullify what they were trying to do. Oh, because I forgot to get to the point of what they were trying to do. See, Ye doing that wasn't about, hey, I'm trying to challenge Black Lives Matter and trying to show that White Lives Matter. That wasn't what it was about. It was about one thing. That was about promoting Candace Owens' video. That's it. The entire White Lives Matter thing was just an opportunity, a PR stunt to promote Candace Owens' Candace Owens' mockumentary, Candace Owens' propaganda piece called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, which is about George Floyd and BLM, and it's complete and utter bull. It's complete and utter bullshit. And if you haven't seen it yet on Amazing Lucas's channel, go over there and check it out. He completely dismantled it. But that's all that White Lives Matter was about. That was a PR stunt to promote Candace's propaganda piece that came out on the Daily Wire. That's all that was. Long and short of it, that was nothing more. And that's why there's no point in even talking about it if we realize what that was about. There's no point in keep focusing on, oh, well, he has to apologize for what he said about Black Lives Matter and wearing the shirt. Don't even talk about it because we know what he did it for. We know what this purpose was. It was just to promote her nonsense. That's it. If we want to say anything, we can just counter her nonsense. Just expose her as being a complete and utter liar, a propagandist who ignores facts to fit an agenda. But after that, we get to the DEFCON 3, the tweet. In fact, before we get to the DEFCON 3, I want to say what happened. Saturday night, it was last Saturday. I'm sleeping and I have a dream. I have a dream about Kanye that I'm saying this because it was so real. Like I wake up in the dream, I wake up, turn on the news and see the news that he has ended his life. And then I wake up for real And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, let me check social media to see like that make sure that was just a dream. I go to social media and I see him trending. At this point, I'm like, ooh, wow. But I see he's not trending for that. He's trending because he has tweeted that he is going DEFCON 3 on the Jewish community, on Jews. In addition to that, more information, because he had previously done the Tucker Carlson interview, and more clips from that come out where it reveals that he was talking some of that same stuff in the Tucker Carlson interview. They cut it though. Clearly, Tucker Carlson knew what he was doing. He's like, listen, I want this focus to be on what I want it to be on. I want to help promote Candace Owens and her nonsense. And so we're going to omit certain things and leave certain things in there. Cool. That's why the Drink Champs interview is so important. 3 hours and like 3.5 hours. And we get to see Kanye, if you've seen it. And some people may have uploaded it to YouTube. I don't know if Revolt is like copywriting it, but Revolt is the one that took it down off of YouTube. But if you watched that interview, I watched the entire interview, and I'm not going to break down the entire interview like here today in this video, but he goes on into detail about a lot of stuff. And I think taking that video down was not a good idea. I think it allows certain people to clip certain things from it to change the focus without giving us fuller context. If people wanted to clip certain things, they could have done that and the video could have stayed up, because in the video, let's be clear, he says things about the Jews are doing this and that, and then he goes into saying something as to why he feels this way. And he says, you know what? I'm jealous.
I'm jealous of the fact of how they don't abort their babies. I'm jealous of the fact of how they stay with their wives. I'm jealous of the way Jewish people do business. And I'm jealous not just for me, but for our entire culture. I'm
jealous of the Jews. I'm jealous that they've built so much, that they are not aborting their children. I'm jealous that they stick together, they get married, they stay together, they build their families. So I'm jealous. That's what this is about. And Nori says, well, why did you just start with that? Why did you start with all this other stuff? Why didn't you start with that? And he says, I didn't know it. Like I hadn't even processed where this was coming from. In fact, he doesn't refer to it as having processed it. He said, God just gave it to me right here. I didn't have this before. God gave it to me here in this interview. And what I'm saying is he hadn't even processed all of it. He hadn't had the conversation, the back and forth, where he could actually get to the point where he could realize why he's feeling the way he is and what his actual thought process is. He hadn't even actually examined and taken a deep dive into his thoughts. During this interview, he takes a deeper dive and comes to that conclusion. That point I haven't seen on any other subsequent interview. So they've taken that off of Revolt. They removed that from YouTube, and now he's interviewed since then with Chris Cuomo, with Piers Morgan, and that piece is missing. That piece is missing, and more people should be putting that on social media. Like, listen, that's a significant admission, and that's a place to start a dialogue. Like that's a really great place to have a dialogue and to say, hey, you know what? This is a place where instead of just talking at each other, we can actually start hearing each other. But like I said, the opportunity has been missed because Chris Cuomo is just about, hey, you said a bad thing. And Chris Cuomo's just using this for ratings and to chastise him and say, see, I'm the good guy. But Nori later came on, and I mean, in fact, not just later, Nori actually, before they actually pulled the interview, Nori went on a tour apologizing. So people are mad at Nori for apologizing, and they're saying, oh, he sold out and he buckled in. Like, did you watch the interview? Did you watch the interview? Did you watch how many times Nori was shook throughout this entire interview, the entire 3 hours that he was talking to Kanye? He was shook. He was shook to death. He's like, oh, no, don't say that. We love the Jewish people. He said this multiple times in the interview. So, like, people acting like they're surprised that Nori went on an apology tour on Monday Money. The only thing that's surprising about that is that based on what he was saying in the interview, he clearly didn't need to. because he wasn't co-signing what Kanye was saying. He kept trying to, hey, no, don't say that. We love Jewish people. He kept doing that throughout the interview. So there wasn't a need for him to get up there and say, because he didn't say anything. He was interviewing him and pushing back against what Kanye was saying. So if you're saying that what Kanye has said was evil and wrong and anti-Semitic, if you're saying all these things, you can't say that Nori was agreeing with it. And then when people have seen Piers Morgan and Kanye apologizes on Piers Morgan, well, he apologized for the DEF CON. Like he acknowledged, he says, not, yeah.
You can't call me anti-Semitic for saying I'm going DEF CON 3.
I think what you said was important though.
That sounds pretty anti-Semitic.
You know what? Yeah, that was anti-Semitic. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. He says it in the interview. Once again, another reason why the interview shouldn't have been pulled down, because he acknowledged that there was so much chance for clarification, for a deeper discussion, that's missed because they pulled the long form discussion down, and now we've just got these bite-sized pieces between him and Chris Cuomo, him and Piers Morgan, and we don't have the deeper conversations. But I think one of the things we need to talk about is some of the things that Ye discussed in this interview, the Drink Champs interview, are things that the powers that be don't want discussed. And when I say the powers that be, I just mean the non-black media, which is the media. The media is not being controlled by black people, and it's not being controlled and not being pushed for the benefit of black people. And Kanye and Ye talks about that. Ye talks about the music industry and how the music industry pushes all kinds of negative stuff about black people, and there's no accountability. That's something that needs to be discussed. Because if we take a look at Fox News has no problem complaining about rappers. They've been doing it. Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, they were doing it for years. Like Laura Ingraham made a habit of complaining about rappers. You know what she didn't complain about? The studio executives that were pushing certain music, the record labels and distribution companies that were pushing this music, or the radio stations that weren't owned by black people, weren't owned by the rappers, but she only wanted to talk about the rappers. She didn't want to talk about the infrastructure that was pushing these messages that she claims were hateful, misogynistic, and she didn't like. She only wanted to talk about the people, the faces that were on front and center. Not the ones that actually had the power, that were making sure these messages were being pushed. Because if you know rap, you know there's conscious heads out there. Even Ye talks about Mos and Kweli and how they were doing the conscious rap, the backpack rap, and he started doing something slightly different. So why were Mos and Kweli being pushed? Why were their music being silenced? Let's think about why. Because the powers that be, the non-black people that owned the media, had no interest in pushing messages of black empowerment. They had no interest in pushing messages promoting black unity. I'm not here saying that one community owns the media and they're trying to stop us. I'm here to say we don't own it. That's what we know. We don't own it. I'm not saying it's one community that owns it. I'm saying they're the people that own record labels, media, radio stations. They're not black. There are various groups of people that own these institutions, and they're not black. They're not us. Their primary interest is not the upliftment and the improvement and the well-being of the black community. That needs to be our focus, because quite frankly, there could be black people that could own these institutions, and their focus wouldn't be the improvement and the well-being of the black community. So we need to make sure that, one, black people own our institutions, and that the black people that are owning our institutions are pro-black people. Because there's plenty of black faces out there that will try to distance themselves from black people and are on some stupid nonsense like, well, why does everything gotta be about race? I don't need to rock with black people. So we need to make sure that black and pro-black people own our institutions so that we can actually focus on, wait a minute, these messages coming from music, from media, from news, from movies, these depictions of black people, the focus of black culture isn't on negativity, isn't stereotypical nonsense, and isn't pushing poison, mental poison, out to the people, but that's up to us. The only way we get to control that is if we control that. So that point that Kanye is making, I'm not talking about who owns it. I'm talking about the fact that we don't. We don't own our own media. That needs to change. So while you may disagree with a bunch of what Ye says, cool, I get it. That part is real. I also want to point out another thing, because Ye talks about how, we need to build families. And he says that's one of the things he's jealous of the Jewish community, of Jewish community. They get together, they marry, they stay together, they build families. It's kind of ironic coming from Ye. Ye saying that that's one of the things he's jealous of. I'm not sure how jealous he is, because what he's talked about is Jewish men, Jewish women getting married, having families. So that would mean the correlation for the black community would be black men, black women, you see where I'm going here? Getting married, having families. His divorce is almost finalized. His divorce from his non-black wife is almost finalized. Since the separation and the announcement, we've seen him with various white women. If Ye is actually jealous, Ye might have to consider that if you want to build a black family, that you being a black man might need a black wife. I'm just putting that out there. Because if that's something you're truly interested in, then you might need to look in the mirror and realize, oh well, I've been doing it wrong. Yeah, you've been doing it very wrong. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe if you have not subscribed already. And let me know what you think. Have you seen the Drink Champs interview, any of the other interviews? What do you think about those interviews? What do you think about what he said? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you next time.